everybody. My name is Brad Muniz, a partner at Sobel & Company. I'd like to welcome you to Sobel Insights. Sobel Insights is a weekly series where we provide some brief information on various topics. I recommend you look into these topics a lot more because there's a lot more information. Our goal is to keep these sessions to 15 minutes. At this point, we do not provide CPE. Today's topic is diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Speaking with us today is Cornell Thomas, the founder for Cornell Thomas LLC. And as I said, we're talking about diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Cornell, why is diversity and inclusion in the workplace so important?
We were talking about it before, Brad, off record, and I really do feel diversity and inclusion is important because the best teams are the most diverse teams. And coming from a basketball background where I had people from all walks of life, I had one of my teammates in North Dakota was from Serbia, right? And I learned a little bit of Serbian. Like it's just a lot different in terms of getting perspectives, and everybody grew up different. Like when you have the same thing, it's proven in business, sports teams, it just doesn't work. So I think the creativity, the brainstorming, just the different perspectives, that's what makes the team's a lot richer when you have that diverse group of people together.
I guess they get to bring different ideas from different angles that you may never thought of because of your, you could say upbringing, because of your experiences.
Yeah.
And I imagine Google, who has, the big collaborative environment, I imagine, they look for as much diversity in their thought process.
Yeah. You go to places like Google. I've been to LinkedIn offices, and it's just this open space of people collaborating, and the people look different, right? Like the people look different from different backgrounds, and they're just all together collaborating, making this, machine run the best way they can.
Oh, that's great. So you're talking about collaborating, and I'm having a tough time for this past year collaborating. I'm a big person on collaboration, of just throw something out there because somebody may start running with it. But over the past year, we've been working remotely. And do you think that the remote environment helps or hurts diversity and inclusion?
I think it depends. When it comes to just a singular company, it hurts because the face-to-face, you can't replace it. You can feel energy from a Zoom call, but it's not the same as me sitting down and saying, hey, Brad, can you come to my office for a little bit? Or can I come to your office? Or let's go for a walk around campus and just have a conversation. That high touch, those high touch situations are just so important. But if you're dealing with outside markets, if you're dealing with people from different countries, like for me, I run, different events, and, I do team training, and now I can do team training in Saudi Arabia from my office without having to fly 14 hours to Saudi or 15 hours to Saudi Arabia. So it just kind of depends on where your company is, like what are the confines of your company's like logistically. But in terms of like person to person, there's nothing like being in front of someone, and things don't get misconstrued because we've fallen back to the emails, and now we do Zooms, but a lot of emails back and forth, and there's so much stuff that's lost in the context in emails. So I'd rather see the person, see the reaction when I say things, and go from there.
And I never put into perspective of the company versus the world, because I have clients in Sweden, and it's great because I could talk to Sweden, I could talk to them on the phone too, but I'm seeing the person now more than I'm talking to, and have a little bit more of a relationship than I would have had over the phone. However, on Teams, while we can have a lot of different pictures, on Zoom we can have a lot of different pictures, you don't see the mosaic that you can see when you're in the office and appreciate and enjoy your coworkers who are right next to you, and the diversity that we can build.
So true. So, everything. Think about it. If I come in, I might be wearing a shirt that's a talking point, right? I might be wearing shoes that are a talking point, something that's light. I come in with these funky shoes or these funky socks. You go, Cornell, hey, where'd you get those from? Right? And we just like, it's just automatic icebreakers when people walk into a room and you can have these conversations. Oh, how'd your kids, so-and-so go? When you're on Zoom, it's like, one, depending on the reception of each party, right? Sometimes it's like you're playing double dutch. Like you're not sure, like this person stopped talking, or should I go? Or it's like this weird, awkward dance. In person, it's more of a flow. Where and again, it's like you also feel the energy from that other person. If I know you come into a room, Brad, and I can see that your energy is down, I can boost my energy up. We're on the same team to kind of cover for that and get you going. So, there's nothing like being in person for me.
And you mentioned the teams. I mean, we could have a team on Teams or in Zoom, but somebody joins an organization and they're from an underrepresented a group. It's hard for them to feel part of a team and a group when they're sitting home or in their dining room, wherever they are, just talking to a screen, a two-dimensional person or people all the time.
Yeah, 100%. And I've been in my life, I've been in both situations. I was raised, partly in the inner city where I was very well represented and the other side was not. And then we moved to Rockaway, New Jersey, to a town fittingly called White Meadow Lake. And I was very underrepresented. So it's like, you're 100% right. If I had to do schooling from a screen and just saw all these faces and not being able to talk to them or not have any interaction, I would have kind of felt like the odd man out. So that's such a great point. It's a lot different when, if I am underrepresented and we're in person, you can include me into the conversation, right? And we can have dialogue.
Yeah, come on, let's all go out to lunch. All go out to lunch.
Yeah.
You're part of the group now. We're all together. So that's the one thing that I was having a conversation with somebody named Joe in my office this morning, and it's one thing we're saying is that the newer people that are starting, which is more of a diverse group, and we feel bad that people are being like put in different areas. So I hope we start to go back to normal.
Yeah.
One of the things about the workforce that I'm actually very much nervous about is, because I'm working from home, I hear more of the news, and we went through a crazy election, and who's tweeting what and who's this. The social media that's out there and the stuff that's said, how do you keep that corrosiveness, that toxicity out of the workforce? Or is it beneficial for the workforce? I don't think so, but I'll put that out there.
For me, if I'm I have 50 to 100 employees, one of the non-negotiables that we would have is leave social media out of the workplace. Leave it out, because just like the news, you can turn on a channel and get your opinion, and you can be flooded with your opinion. When you look at social media and how divisive it is, it's the most divisive mechanism out there to me right now, more divisive than the news, because people can pop on real time and just give you 140 characters of the absolute venom on how they feel. And there's not conversations going on social media a lot of times. It's arguments. There's these heated debates. It's name calling. So why would you want to bring that into your workplace? Now, if there's a topic that is everybody knows about and you want to have a discussion about it, then cool, we can have a discussion about it. Today, let's talk about this. Let's address this issue. But in terms of social media, and even my employees, like, once you leave my job, like the job, like, you're your own person, you're Brad, but understand you still represent us, right? So if Brad is a great teammate and awesome, when it comes to us being together, then he goes out and he just goes on just hate rants, on Twitter, trying to prove his point. Well, people are going to say, well, where does Brad work? So you're representing us still. You're still representing me. We represent each other. So you have to be conscious of that when you're on social media. So I would just say, like, leave it out, because I don't see too much in terms of like these debates. I don't see too much being done outside of ego stroking. I proved my point. You were wrong. I was right, Brad. I know more than you about this topic. What gets done? Nothing.
I appreciate you saying that. So I'll apologize to Alan Sobel for the pictures of drinks that I put up on Instagram. But I think most people know how I am. I think they knew that before. What can companies start or continue doing to help move diversity and inclusion initiatives forward?
Yeah. Well, you have to ask important questions. So one of the questions for me is, well, if we don't have a very diverse team or background or company, well, the first question is why? Because when you ask yourself the question of why, right, you have to be real with yourself. And if you say, oh, well, you know what, the area we live in, and that's just an excuse, right? Like, you have to get to the heart. Like, well, why? Why don't we have more diversity on our team? Is it in our hiring practices? Is it our marketing and our outreach? Where we reach, like, when a new job appears, where do we put it? Do we put it in the same, on our website, or the same place every single time? Do we go out and say, well, me and you are both from Jersey, so we're like, hey, okay, well, let's go to Dover. Let's go to these different places. Let's go to Newark. Let's go to Passaic. Let's see who. There are millions and millions and millions of Americans without jobs. There's no excuse not to have a little bit more diversity in the workplace. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, for me, is stop making these topics taboo, right? Like, stop making topics that need to be spoken about so taboo. Like, why can't you have conversations about race in the workplace? If that's what's going on, right? If that's what's going on, and it's going on, it's like hits you in the face every single day. If that's what's going on. Why can't we sit down and have conversations? And then that goes to the other point. Well, we can't have conversations because people might be offended. Well, why are people so offended? Maybe it's the way we're having these conversations. So if you can't have these conversations yourself, then hire a facilitator to come in, and you can sit back and be part of the conversation. And that facilitator can say, we're not arguing here. We're not calling names here. We're not doing any of that stuff. We're just going to talk and go through different points of view. Leave your politics and all the other nonsense. Leave that aside, and let's have conversations as human beings about right and wrong and justice and all these other things.
So it's the conversations. I think that's probably one of the most difficult things that, I will say for you, I'm not a person of color. Are you offending somebody by having the conversation? I guess that's where people walk on eggshells, and then employers get nervous. How can we have those conversations? And you said, if you feel the need, I mean, people shouldn't just walking around pointing, going, let's talk about race, let's talk about race, talk about race. No, I would think it should come up in natural conversation.
For sure.
How do you feel about what happened in this situation?
Yeah.
Is it affecting you?
Yeah.
And I think you had said the word before to me, it comes with empathy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to have the conversation, have it with empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have it where you're probing the person. Something happened in Atlanta, and if you have somebody Asian working, are you okay? Is this affecting you? What do you think about it?
Mm-hmm.
You're all right. I guess that's the standard conversation, but have it with empathy.
Yeah, and you have to have the empathy on both sides as well, right? Because I have to have empathy enough for you to know that you have not been taught these things, right? I have to have empathy enough for you to realize that you have the same history book that I do, where there's a lot of misinformation, right? And it's, again, history goes to the winners. So there's a lot of things in there where, brown people and yellow people, et cetera, are very misrepresented in our American history books, right? And I put American history in big freaking quotes, because when you go outside our country and you see world history, like there's so many things that are added that makes the history books this big, right? So I can't say, well, why doesn't Brad know everything about Black folks? That's crazy. He should know everything. Well, I don't know everything about Black folks, and I'm a Black folk, right? So it's like, I can't look at it that way. So again, it's like we're holding each other to this certain standard without using common sense. It's like, it's impossible for you to know what's going on in my shoes unless I discuss it with you, and vice versa. So I think it's just like you said, like coming to the table, not with our, swords ready to chop each other's heads off, but coming to the table ready to have a conversation.
Right. I said to somebody one day, I was actually talking about global warming. Mm-hmm. And I'm a little brother, so I like to throw a lot of things. That's why my brother beat me up a lot when we were younger. But I said to them at the end, I said, you don't realize we might not be on the same page, but we're probably in the same book. I said, but what happens when you force feed medicine to somebody? It's a gag reflex. I said, if you talk to me about it, I may learn and I may change what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But if you try and force it down my throat, I'm going to spit it out and put up my shield. And it's not healthy for anybody, either side. Mm-hmm. Either side.
I love that's such a great analogy. And again, there are some people, Brad, they're not ready to have this conversation. And like, you have to understand, like, not everybody's ready to have this conversation. I want to talk to the people that are, right? If you're not ready to have this conversation, regardless of whatever your background is, your teaching is, or you have a backwards grandfather, that whatever it is, then cool. I'll have the conversation with the people that want to have that conversation. Because at some point in time, when you outnumber those that don't, they're going to really have no choice. They're going to have to join into that conversation. And when people talk about like allies, I just talk about like, just being open. Like, to me, that's an ally. Someone that's really ready to sit. We don't have to, at the end of the conversation, we could still have like some different viewpoints. But as long as you're open to it, as long as you sat down with them and we can have a conversation, to me, that's an ally. Like, you don't have to, start marching or whatever it is that people are expecting you to do. But as long as you're ready to you're open to have that conversation and hear me out, then to me, that's what an ally is.
A great way to put it. I'll let you end it on that. For now, I want to thank you very much for your comments today. As I said, this was just 15 minutes. There's a lot more for people to look into. You have TED Talks out there. I recommend people look up your presentation. I looked it up. I was really surprised when I saw it, appreciated it, and wanted me to have you on here. So thank you very much for coming here. Thank everybody for watching. Again, we have a lot of videos that you can see on ours, but also look up Cornell and look forward for some of our other presentations. Thank you again.
Thank you.